just an update here on how Fox is doing. They are, in some ways, kind of becoming the new Bud Light. I mean, it's except that it's now Miller Lite. But Fox has alienated its audience quite extraordinarily by getting rid of Tucker Carlson, as we suspected they would. And I was looking at the numbers, and they're off more than 50% now from where Tucker was. And this is pretty startling. So the latest numbers coming in showing us 1.3 million people tuned into the 8 p.m. show last night. Now you're like, okay, that's pretty good. Like 1.3 million, that's a lot, right? It's not good. It's not good when you consider that Bill O'Reilly was upwards of 4 million. Tucker Carlson was upwards of 3 million. And now they've had that number cut certainly in half, down in the 1.3 range. And I'm not sure that they're ever really going to get that back. I think that this is kind of a different moment in time. You've heard me talk about this before. There's so many different ways to get news now. You know, we're here talking right now live on YouTube, and I'm able to see your comments. I'm able to talk with you. I get to answer your makeup questions. I mean, hey, this is a whole different ballgame than anything we've been able to experience before, certainly in my career. In my career, it has been, you know, teleprompter, television commercials, the whole shebang. And this is a whole different environment. So I think as a result of Tucker leaving, you have a lot of people in the conservative space, I mean, probably at least 1.5 million of them, that are looking for something new. This is why Newsmax is now beating CNN. I mean, it's not hard to beat CNN. CNN has always been kind of a train wreck, and they're struggling over there because they're having their identity crisis. And Fox is having a version of its. You know, I don't quite understand why they did that. I'm shocked that they did that. I was shocked that they got rid of me, but you know, I didn't have the number one. I was 8 o'clock on the redheaded stepchild network, right? Which was taking viewership away, you could argue, from the mothership. So in some ways, you could see that they maybe had a business reason to say, okay, well, you know, all this has happened and we don't like her point of view, and thus who needs this show? Because basically, no matter how well she does, it is still a drain on the mothership, because that means maybe viewers aren't watching Tucker. And then no matter how badly she does, it's still a drain, right? Because then, you know, if you're not getting the numbers, so damned if you do, damned if you don't. I never should have taken the gig, right? Anyway, it stunned me, of course, but simultaneously, I think that, you know, you could say, all right, well, there's a business reason here. What was the business reason for getting rid of Tucker Carlson? I'll ask you guys that question. What was the business reason there? Because I think there had to be one. I do think that those that run Fox and own Fox have thick skin. And even if he was shooting his mouth off, saying really unpleasant things about management or possibly about, you know, Rupert's little girlfriend who, you know, was like however many, 40 years younger, whatever. I mean, he could have said some inappropriate things on his text message. But look, Rupert has thick skin and he's been in this business for a while. And what does he care as long as the guy's making him a ton of money? And Tucker certainly was. I mean, he really made them a lot of money. So what exactly happened? I do have my suspicions that this may have been about two people, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer, who 5 weeks earlier had been on the floor of the Senate saying, we need to regulate Fox News and Tucker Carlson. I mean, that could have put the fear of God into them. Who knows, right? I mean, maybe they were really, really worried. Don't forget, Rupert Murdoch lost that deal for Sky over in the UK. It was like a $15 billion merger. And the reason he lost it was because of Ofcom not feeling that he was appropriate enough as a broadcaster, et cetera, right? And part of that was tied to Fox. So he had been through a pretty challenging experience in that sense. I mean, we are not the UK and we don't have Ofcom, but crazier things have happened like this, right? So who's to say maybe he wasn't, in fact, really worried that there would be some regulatory action against Fox. But I'll tell you, no good deed goes unpunished, because, you know, they were like, I mean, the moral of the story is you have to be very careful, because if they get one, they'll take another, and they'll take another, and they'll take another. In other words, these people are really relentless, and they're not going to stop. You have AOC now attacking, by the way, CNN. How dare they run that Trump town hall, even though the guy's clearly going to be the nominee for the Republican Party. And you have more people, of course, still furious with Fox, so much so that I guess they're having some big ad meetings and all that kind of. They're psyched, right? Because 40 advertisers have come back to the 8 p.m. time slot now that Tucker's gone. So you get the advertisers back. You don't have the ratings, but maybe at least some people are willing to advertise. Or are they? Or are they? This was apparently parked outside 1211 Avenue of the Americas earlier today. So for those of you on the Apple podcast listening just to the audio, what we are watching or did watch actually was in fact some video of Fox, and there's a campaign, there's a big truck, it says drop Fox, hashtag drop Fox, and they're pointing to a lot of Tucker stuff. Of course, Tucker's not there anymore, but that's not going to stop them. They're saying, you need to drop Fox. So that's meant to kind of spook the advertisers. Look, this is a business. And I would just say what's interesting to me is if you think about it as a business, I get why, there's all this stuff coming out about Tucker and they're leaking things and people are wondering who's doing the leaking. I would just say, look, any of these organizations need to protect their quote unquote property in that they built Tucker into becoming quite a star. He, of course, had to have the natural talent, but let's be honest, he had a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful platform. So because he had this incredible platform, he was able to get the word out in a much bigger way than, if he was just, I guess, broadcasting from his basement, which he may be able to do very soon and do so very, very successfully on Twitter because he's built this audience. But from Fox's standpoint, they're like, hang on. You're ours. We have the right to bench you, which is what they did. Same thing happened to me. They had the right to bench me as long as they paid out the contract. And we don't want you going anywhere else because we don't want any other entity to benefit from you. But I'm wondering, and I do have to go back and look at my old contract. I'm wondering if there's anything in there that would pertain to internet, right? Because everything's been changing so fast. And maybe there's nothing in there that says he can't stream live. I don't know the answer to that. But even so, look, it's going to be Twitter's sort of benefit. And so all the sort of prestige or fame that was built up by being in that 8 o'clock time slot is now getting handed over to someone else. And hopefully that's Tucker. Hopefully Tucker is the one that's going to benefit from that. But indeed, whatever platform he chooses will also benefit too. So it's a very interesting one to watch. And it's, been kind of on the down low lately. We haven't heard as much. Probably they're still working through legal negotiations. I wish them both well. I do. But I think it's going to be hard for Fox. I think it's going to be very hard to replace his time slot. And I also think it's going to be extremely difficult for viewers to have any more trust. They've already gone looking elsewhere. And once they go looking elsewhere, they're going to find new channels, new places, new content.